One shot, one heartbeat, one frame. That's the difference between seeing the action and truly feeling it. Today, we're breaking down the work of Al Arena, also known as Ignite Media, where chaos meets perfection. Welcome back to the place where tires scream, engines roar, and I geek out over the... And I try not to geek out at the photographs and photographers that inspire me daily. Today is episode 3. We're doing Ignite Media, also known as Al Arena. And Al, even though we've talked, online, I don't actually know if that's how you pronounce her name. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So Al has this incredible ability where the photos that she takes aren't just moments frozen in time and thrown up online. They are controlled chaos. And I've used that term before when I talk about, the drifting guys and the pros and the shots that we take in that series. Looking at her photos, it's like a masterclass. It's fair warning. After I show you some of her shots, you may look at some of your best shots in your opinion, and you may suddenly decide that they are worth less than the dirt under your shoes. And you will not be alone, because that was an immediate feeling for me. Immediate. That's not a lie. I saw some of her photos a while back, looked at some of mine, and went, "Fuck, this is shit." I'm laughing because I really did say that, like, out loud in a room to myself. Yeah. So here we are, right on her profile, and there's her name, Al Arena. I know it's got to be short for something, but there it is, Al. Hi. On the iPad, here we go. So she's really good at, like, a lot of things. One of the things that really, was glaring at me was her ability to get just beautiful bokeh balls. She's clearly shooting at a minimum a 4.5. I would say more likely a 2.8. So another example. Now, the reason why this one spoke to me immensely is because this is the back end of Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, which is where round 2 of Formula Drift happens every year. And that's actually where I'm going to be in a week when this comes out. No, this is episode 3. I'm there right now. Maybe I just left. My brain is fried right now. I'm either just about to or just coming back from Road Atlanta. And where they are is the back, not really straight, kind of. So it's coming down from turn 9, 10A, 10B, and then the keyhole for Formula Drift is right there, right after 10B. And then instead of going in the keyhole, you were to go under the bridge. This is past the bridge going down. So this is like right after that bridge in the background. If you guys watch Formula Drift, that's where this is. And this Formula Drift is going to be a fun weekend because it's on the same weekend as a Grid Life event, and that's wheel to wheel and time attack. So I'm going to have access to be able to do these kinds of shots and experiment and really see the rest of the track like she does. Because I don't really do IMSA or like the Miata series or anything like that. I would like to. I just have not had the opportunity yet. So this is, I love this because, like, that's just fucking grass. And she's getting that beautiful bokeh. That's gorgeous. So we're going to go from this shot to a bunch of others that really speak to her ability to tell the story, which is what I was talking about earlier. Her framing is flawless, in my opinion. Now, this is half of a photo because she's doing carousels. We've all done those as photographers. So this is one half, that's the other half. So as a whole photo, you can start to see that's a beautiful pan. This is probably somewhere around 35 mil because it looks like she's on top of a parking lot, maybe about 6 stories high maximum. I would say probably closer to 3 or 4 stories based on the buildings in the background. Maybe at a 50th, but that's just my conjecture based off the photo. I could be wrong on that, and I'm okay with that. But we go from that to this is just amazing. Part of the reason that this is amazing, not only because she is shooting through those, metal barriers on the sides of actual tracks, but it's because, and I know Al well enough to know that I don't believe that she colored like the back end of the metal to be blue. I think that's a reflection of the sky or just a correction of the white balance. So it just inevitably became blue when she balanced the colors correctly. The blue hue of the metal makes it look as if it's the sky. Obviously it's not, because of that super sharp border of the metal wall itself, the gate, but the color is the right sort of color that you could kind of see in like a stormy sky. And so it doesn't take away from the photo. If this was just like silver or black, like that would take away from the photo. But because it's blue, the framing works just so perfectly. And this is definitely not rule of thirds. Like, if anything, maybe that fucking wing is on like the point of a third. But realistically, this is pushing off on the far end and really just going into that openness because of the perception of the wall of the barrier. Just driving into the openness, and it's inviting you. So even though it kind of breaks the rule where the car is going into the short side of the photo, it doesn't look like it's closed in though, because it's in the open section. So it's more inviting of that close spot because it's open. I feel like that makes sense. I know it does, because that's how, just classically, like I was trained, 22 years ago. And that's why this photo is so amazing, because, and I don't know if Al did that on purpose, but it does visually, it just makes so much sense. And framing, since we're on that subject, this is just amazing. Like, the gate is pretty much right in the middle. It moves within the photo because gates aren't perfect. And the left is just foliage. It's just green. It's a forest. You can see a walk path up the hill, and she uses the fence to give us that sense of depth between viewer and racer, and it's just amazing. And obviously the spray from the waters just gives it that dynamism that the photo wasn't necessarily missing. But if you were to remove that spray, now I feel like it would be missing, because the moment was like kind of too frozen almost, and the reflection is there. And this is most certainly nowhere near the rule of thirds law. That rule is just there to give you a guide. This would have to be like rule of eighths in order for this to make sense to be on like a crisscross point. That's out the window with Al, and that's just a part of the reason why I love her shots so much. She just breaks convention, and whether she knows why or not is irrelevant to me, because it's so consistent in her ability to kind of push a boundary. And speaking of boundaries, here we have another carousel, and as you can see, it's another one of those where that is just so severely bottom left of what the full photo was. And yet you've got the sun coming through the space of the flags just right there. And the flags themselves are acting as a kind of guide for your eye on like the one shot. The sun flare as well is kind of like just pointing your eye into that zone to just go, hey, there's nothing over on this. It's a pretty part of the photo, but really the photo is over here on the bottom right. Well, left. My left when I'm viewing, your left, bottom direction. And now let's go back to the foliage aspect. On these, she's now shooting through. So another carousel, and all that foliage is just a gorgeous foreground frame. And it's not a pan, not necessarily. Like, obviously she's still panning through the foliage and the leaves and everything, but it's not like a shutter drag. It's not a longer exposure. This is probably, and because, these aren't necessarily like blurred, they're out of focus, but they're not blurred, they're not streaked, there's no movement to it other than just it's out of focus because of the aperture. I'm gonna say this was probably and I don't know how fast that car is going, because of how close the foliage is to Al in the relationship of just like the sense of depth. Like, these are probably only a couple feet out from her, maybe even less. And so in that regard, even at a 500th, if you're panning fast enough, you're still going to see some motion blur in the foreground because it's close enough. That's just the relationship of sense of depth. So I'm going to say that this was at least 1,000th of a second. Just going through all of those plants to just foreground frame right there in that tiny little pocket. Gorgeous. And she keeps that theme going in a lot of her shots, and I have used this to inspire me on a couple of mine in drift. But you can see gorgeous sense of depth with the severe out of focus plant in the foreground versus the trees in the background. And then carousel over, there it is again. Just a little pocket waiting for that car to poke through. I don't think she panned here necessarily. She probably just, moved the lens just incrementally, maybe like an inch or two over to just get the tracking and follow it into that little hole. And that's it. This was fantastic planning. That's what these shots require. They require you to view the scenery and not just the subject. And she does that very well. And when I say very well, here are a couple examples. Another carousel, super close to the wall. She's definitely on a wide lens. I'd say maybe like a 16 to 20 maximum. But she's using the environment. The lines are literally creating a barrier from the fence so that your eye goes to the subject, and it's amazingly done. And to keep that same sense of awareness, not just in the framing of the foreground, but as well as reflections. Al is just astonishing at getting reflections on the track and around the track. And I have long admired her ability to find a good reflection, because as it is, not a bad photo, pretty normal for Al. Breaks the rule of thirds. They're all the way down there. Beautiful red cars in the bottom, clearly at Coda because of the flag. But then you go over and look at that. Oh, it's a gorgeous reflection on the other side of the shot. Things like this are things that I would not think of my first year doing like IMSA or a higher tiered series than Formula Drift, had it not been for people like Al inspiring me with their shots. This sense of finding reflections in anything is fantastic. Perfect one of the Andretti symbol going into an Andretti vehicle. This is just amazing, like a reflection into the cockpit. Obviously you don't see the cockpit in the reflection, but the reflection is leading you into the cockpit of the vehicle, and that's just fantastic. And we can keep that same theme going. Gorgeous reflection. This was right after his win, I think in Indianapolis, I think. Don't know if this was 100% staged, because Al was able to kind of stage some photos after he won a little bit, but I mean, he's got his phone out. It's kind of candid, kind of not, could go either way. Continuing with reflections, carousel number 1, carousel number 2. Now, I love this because this is, at least to my eye, Al brought something with her. I almost feel like this was a phone, because the reflection into the clouds is just too perfect. If you've ever taken your phone and put it like right here so that you can reflect, you'll see what I'm saying, where the reflection, like the surface is just so crystal clear, it's almost unreal, and therefore it takes away from the photo. Now, I'm not saying that that's what this did for me, because it went into like clouds. If it went to like buildings, a little jarring, at least to my eye. But the clouds kind of give it this sense of like wonderment still. And so I've done something similar where I took like this little piece of tin, did the movement and tried to get some fun warped reflections. And I like that more because it's like dirty and scratched and it's not perfect, and the reflections are never going to be the exact same any time that I do it. And it's just not clean, but it looks still real to my eye, at least. This still kind of looks real, but it's like on the edge for me because it's just so clean. But it's because of shots that she's done like this that I got the inspiration to take that little piece of tin that I have had in my gear closet for like props and stuff for tabletop shit for years. And I never thought to bring it out to a track with me until I started to really analyze photographers and specifically Al and other people that are currently shooting. It's amazing the things that you can be inspired to do and just tweak it to make it your own. Now, speaking of things that she can do very well, podium shots and the celebratory shots. She has dialed in her settings of her camera for how she edits, almost to the point where she may not even really need to edit photos anymore. Like as soon as they come out, they're good to send to a client, and that's fine. I'm not at that point. I kind of, in some photos, I still over edit, and I'm aware of it. I'm still learning my in-camera desires because my edits change almost every other round of drift and motorsport, and not drastically, but like, tweak. It's the same with like style. They tweak. I'm not at that level yet where I barely need to edit. Al is. This is like probably within 3 minutes of out of the camera. She probably just like touched up shadows, highlights, and blacks and whites, and that's about it, and sent it on their merry way. This is a stunning shot. It's fast enough that the spray are like dots, they're not streaks. The skin tones are accurate. It's okay that his face is a little on the dark side because he's wearing a hat, so it should be a little on the darker side. But she does these shots very well. As you can see, like a lot of people would be focusing on the driver's face. And honestly, this could just be an autofocus error. And that's fine too. I've done those where I will start focus of a podium shot on hands if I know they're going to spray, and then autofocus jumps to face because it's on facial recognition. Or it could be vice versa. If I just have it on people and there's too much spray, it will search for like skin tones and then it will autofocus on hands. It's done back and forth. And I've kept options of both senses where autofocus changes to something that I didn't control it to, but I ended up liking the shot and I ended up sending that to the client. They were very happy with it. So it's very possible that she meant to do this. It's also very possible that she didn't. In terms of like what was in focus, like this is just gorgeous. The bokeh of the splash is just fantastic, giving it this sense of depth, almost like it's in 3D, and just the splash is coming right at you, and the thumb just holding over the nozzle is just great. He's got a big grin in the background. It's amazing. She does podium and celebratory shots so well, and not just, you know, those, but like Pitt, as we see right here. Now this is clearly a star filter, and I want this so bad. I just don't need it for longer than like 5 minutes per day, because or else every shot really starts to look the same. When you start using obvious filters over your lens, you know, effects filters, you can't use it for longer than about 5 minutes at a time. You've got to change up your angle, you got to change up your lighting, you got to change up the timing, everything, or all the shots look the same. But you know, when you hit them, you hit them. That's just gorgeous. And the colors are amazing. Like she didn't oversaturate. There's no like weird bars happening in the halation of the colors. She probably just like boosted the vibrance just a touch, just to make sure that the ones, you know, in the highlights aren't lost, because the brighter you go, the more saturation you actually lose. It's amazing. I love those kinds of shots. And now all the shots you really want to see. The pans, the flurries, the blur, the bleh. It's just like, she is so good at this. Al, I don't know if someone like trained you to do pans or you just figured it out because it's damn just on point. That's just and it's the same thing with here. That's clearly the Iron Dames car. Anyone who doesn't know, that's the race team that is 100% women, and it's fantastic. They're so much fun to watch. But this is a great shot. That pink just pops beautifully against everything. And then that Ferris wheel, this flurry, is just amazing. Like, look at the highlights coming through the flurries. Gives such a sense of just movement that it's almost impossible to capture, and they're like taunting you with the flurry highlights. And that's almost why I love the flurries so much, is because pans, when you lock it in, they're great. Don't get me wrong. I love those as well. It's not the same, at least to me. I love a good flurry. Almost like taunts you into thinking that we're going too fast for you to capture us. And that's very inaccurate, because my camera is faster than your car. This is my sticker. I love it. This was one of those shots that when Al put it out, and it's a carousel, it's not just one. Look at how long that streak is. Just what the shit. I don't 100% know, but honestly, because of the length of that streak, and I have to assume that that car was going very fast, and as you can see with the line, a slight bend inward towards Al from away into, that had to be minimum a half a second. I almost want to say that Al had that open for a full second, almost, just because of how long that flurry streak goes. And it's just, you can't do a shot like this in drift, because the smoke will just ruin all of the detail of like the clouds or the monument or the mountain or the people or the stands or the other car. The smoke will completely annihilate all detail behind it if it's open for that long. I know, I've tried. But this shot, I don't know how she feels about it other than like, yeah, it was cool to get, but this is one of my favorites. I would definitely have that up on my wall somewhere, like not as the carousel, not as 2 shots, but the whole wide single shot. Al, let's chat. I want it up there. I want it up on my wall. Okay, so big thanks to Al, not for letting me do this. She has no idea probably until this is already out, but for doing what she does just so well. If it hasn't already been made apparent, Al does the kind of work that reminds us why it's worth getting up at ungodly hours with 2 to 3 different camera bodies and lenses and no sunscreen to go and do what we do. Okay, I don't use sunscreen, but I always have like the UV sleeves and a giant brimmed hat with a thing. I'm always protected because I would just blow up in the sun. But she is just that good. If you want to see the rest of her shots, I've linked her Instagram below. You can go check it out. I very clearly did not save or rip everything. I just chose the ones that inspired me without going excessive, because I could have probably downloaded another 50. But her portfolio is definitely worth losing yourself in at least like 30 minutes to an hour of, to really just dive in and experience motorsport photography from her perspective. So if this episode did not suck, please hit the like button and subscribe while you're here. And if it did suck, too bad, so fucking sad. Yeah, I'm sticking with that. But in all seriousness, if you have a photographer or a photograph that has inspired you, please hit me up. My contact info, my email is down in the description of this video. Please reach out. Let me know the story behind the photo or the photographer, because anything that I can get inspired of is something that I can get excited about, which means I can help to deliver the message and hopefully inspire you guys. And until then, enjoy Al's Instagram, and I will see all of you guys on episode 4. Take care.